In today's video, we visit a house that made me fall in love with history. It's the home of some incredible stories, and I can't wait to show you around. Hello, welcome to Through Lucy's Lens, weekly videos where I go somewhere interesting and hopefully you will find them interesting too. You'll find a mix of historic houses, museums and places that I think are a little bit quirky that I'd love you to come and see with me. Today I am somewhere very, very special to me, and I was thinking about where I was going to make a video this week, and it's somewhere that I've wanted to show you. Yes, it's kind of a bit more of a wealthy person's house, but this is truly the place where as a child I fell in love with history. I have been here hundreds of times. I think when I used to beg my parents week in, week out to bring me here, because this house is where I fell in love with history. I fell in love how history can tell a story, and I can't wait to show you around too. So let's go. Today we are going to be looking around the beautiful Baddesley Clinton. In the heart of Shakespeare's county of Warwickshire is the house that made me fall in love with history. Baddesley Clinton is a moated manor house with a rich tapestry of history and stories that have stood the test of time over some of the most tumultuous times in English history, and often the people living at Baddesley have been part of the story. What I love most about this house is that to me the walls echo with stories of secret passages, religious refuge, and the enduring, brave and forward-thinking spirit of those who called it home. Baddesley amazingly has Saxon origins, although no buildings from that time remain. A man called Badder drove his cattle up to the Forest of Arden and made a clearing in the wood for extra grazing. This clearing would have been protected from predators with a ditch and wooden palisade. Such a clearing was known in Old English as Lee, hence it was called Baddesley, meaning quite literally Badder's clearing. The Clinton part of the name came from a family with the surname de Clinton. The first generation of the de Clinton family to live at Baddesley Clinton was in the early 14th century. It is probably his son James de Clinton who had the moat dug, and it's from James that the earliest buildings were built. Some of the thicker walls on the south side of the house may all be that's left of this original structure. I spent so many hours of my childhood roaming these grounds. Most Sundays, my parents had a National Trust card, and where do you want to go? I'd want to go to Baddesley Clinton. Every single weekend, I must have driven them absolutely mad. And I know, Mom, you still watch these videos. So thank you for making me fall in love with a house and with a subject that has guided my life in such a positive way. I have just stopped for a cup of tea, so thank you to those of you that have made a contribution on coffee. It's very quiet, it's very serene. I'm always very aware I don't want to get in people's way. But I had to stop because something really lovely came into my head. So Baddesley Clinton, the motto on all of the bump about it is how it's been a refuge and a haven for 500 years. And, you know, I think it still is for me today. When I passed my driving test a long time ago, it was about 15 years ago now, the first place I drove was Baddesley Clinton. So that's how it always comes into my mind. And it's been a refuge and a haven for me in bad times. It's a place where I've come if my mental health isn't great, for a little wander around the gardens. There is just a sense of peace and home for me here. And that's why, although it's a little bit not like the other houses I show you, I wanted you to experience it with me. So I hope you're enjoying it. The estate changed hands several times, as they often did, until it was acquired by a lawyer called John Broome. He went on to become an under-treasurer of the Exchequer and had a place at the royal court. In 1438, Baddesley was improved by Broome into a house of a status that he thought befitted his royal ambitions. He provided sophisticated garderobes, which we know as toilets, and even a sewer under the west wing. John Broome supported the wrong side in the Wars of the Roses and was stripped of his court appointments. In 1468, he was murdered on the porch of Whitefriars Church in London. Baddesley Clinton was then inherited by John's second son, Nicholas, a terrible man that quite literally got away with murder twice. We'll hear more about this charming character later in the video. In 1517, Baddesley Clinton passed into the hands of the Ferrers family, who've owned it through 12 generations and nearly 500 years. The family remained loyal to their Catholic faith throughout these times, risking their lives and giving refuge to Catholic priests. The priest holes that you find at Baddesley Clinton were my obsession when I was a child. Much of the house you see today was built by Henry Ferrers, a lawyer and antiquarian, in the late 1500s. You enter Baddesley Clinton into one of the oldest and most fascinating parts of the house. Today it's been set up like the servants' quarters because this is what it would have been during the Victorian era, and we all know I love a Victorian servants' quarters, but have I got a story for you. This kitchen is also one of the most exciting parts of the house. This is where there is one of 3 priest holes. In 58, Henry Ferrers was working in London, so he rented this house to Anne and her sister Eleanor Vaux. These are 2 amazing women. The women employed Nicholas Owen, who was a builder of hiding places, to create hiding places for up to 12 priests at Baddesley Clinton. The priest hole you can see here was built down into the sewer, and there is evidence that at one point there were priests hiding here. In 1591, there was a Jesuit meeting held at Baddesley, and in the early hours of the following morning, Baddesley was surrounded by priest hunters looking for the very men who were hiding in the house. Anne bravely challenged them. She said, "Do you think it's right and proper that you should be admitted to a widow's house?" For the next few hours, the house was thoroughly searched and everything was turned upside down and closely examined. Finally, in I think what is a really sassy move, Anne said to the people who were searching the house, "Have breakfast with us, we're not guilty." And the priests were never found. And on that day, she'd saved the life of 5 priests that she'd hidden in her home. Anne and her sister were brave. Being a woman did not mean that you wouldn't be executed for harbouring a priest. During Anne's lifetime, 3 women were executed for doing just this. The Vaux sisters moved out of Baddesley shortly after, but this story has had me gripped since childhood. Next up, there's also a poignant display of bravery of a more modern nature. Members of the Ferrers family who lost their lives during the Great War. I always find it so sad seeing these young, hopeful men staring out to the camera. I always find these pictures very, very moving wherever I see them. Baddesley Clinton was donated to the National Trust in 1980, and even as late as the 1970s, when all the residents had left, the remaining housekeeper, Molly Pugh, lived here into her retirement alone. Downstairs reflects the domestic life of those who lived here, and it's a rich mixture of 16th century fireplaces and old oak furniture, but the rooms are set out more how like the later 20th century residents would have lived. When I visited as a child, it seemed more run down than this, more rustic. But little did I know that the property had only just been handed over and needed extensive conservation work. Upstairs is the bedroom of Henry Ferrers, known as Henry the Antiquity. He lived here from about 1570. He was described as a man of distinguished worth by his peers. But he couldn't have been that perfect because he was actually sent to prison in the 1580s for attacking a man in an argument about money. Most of the south and east of the house, including the Great Hall, was built in Henry's time. Also, he added new chimney pieces like the magnificent one in this bedroom, and he started the tradition of all the heraldic stained glass windows that you look through so often when you're going round the house. Henry died in 1633 during the reign of Charles I. Usually, Catholic families such as the Ferrers would be staunch supporters of the king, but during the English Civil War, the next lords of the manor at Baddesley seemed to remain quite neutral. Baddesley Clinton was raided twice in 1643 by parliamentary forces, and the Roundhead uniform on display is said to have been found here in the house from that time. Next we see the most beautiful tribute to the Ferrers' strong Catholic faith. This chapel, although it looks as if it was from the 16th century, was actually a restoration project. In the 19th century, the family wanted to recreate the chapel as they imagined it was during that period. Here you can also see another priest hole built into what was once the toilet. I guess the theory was that no one would be looking down the loo for a priest, but it must have been an absolutely disgusting place to hide. This was a garderobe, so the waste would have gone directly down into a moat. So that's where the priest would have been hiding, at the bottom of the sewer, where hopefully nobody would find them. I remember this corridor so clearly from when I was a child. I loved looking out the windows and imagining who had stood here before me. But it also built a sense of anticipation as I knew my absolute favourite part of the house and favourite story was coming up. We need to step back in time again for this one, to the scene of a murder. This story has inspired thousands of children who have visited over the years, and a volunteer said that even today children who visit are desperate to see the blood stain on the floor. Nicholas Broome was lord of the manor here from 1483, and he got away with murder twice. First of all, he murdered the man that he thought was responsible for his father's death, and for that he received a written pardon from Henry VII, and he was asked to pay the widow 33 shillings and 4p. Right here at Baddesley Clinton, he murdered a priest. He came home to find his wife chocking the man under the chin. That basically means in Old English, stroking him under the chin. And he flew into a jealous rage, killing him in the parlour at Baddesley Clinton. The bloodstain in the library was said to be the spot where this took place, and as a kid, I really believed it. I would drag my parents through the house to get here and stand behind what used to be a barrier to view the grisly stain. Today you can actually get up close and personal, and my goodness did that make me happy. Sadly, DNA testing has since put an end to these rumours. The blood is actually from a pig and dates from Victorian times. The Victorian owners loved a good story and put it there to entertain their guests. The murder, however, did take place, and the parlour in the 1480s would have been about here. Nicholas Broome apparently died full of remorse for his acts, asking to be buried near the entrance to the church at Baddesley so people would walk over him as he rested. You can still see this stone in the church at Baddesley, but today, unfortunately, it was closed. But I'll show you some clips at the end of the church from the outside. In a nutshell, I love this place. This video could have been hours and hours long, as there's so much more I could tell you. But if you can, I urge you to visit yourself. It really is one of a kind and always feels like home to me. And you come out right back where you started, at the Moat. Did you enjoy that? I love this house. It just always feels like a home. It's got such a homely atmosphere. You can tell that it's been used. You can tell that it's been lived in. You can tell that it's got a million stories. This video could be so long, but I'm just going to tell you the juicy bits when I get home and do my voiceover. I just had to do a little pause there because one of the volunteers just stopped me and said, "That was really enthusiastic about our house. Thank you. You're welcome. I love it." Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Who knows where we'll be going next, but please do subscribe. It's free and I'll take you somewhere every week. I think I've got, oh my goodness, I think there's almost 60 videos now for you to enjoy. What? So go and enjoy them, and thank you as always for being here. I read every single one of your comments and I always reply, and I always will. You can save that and show me later. Right, until the next one, goodbye. When you leave Baddesley Clinton, just a short stroll away, I think it's about 250 yards, is St Michael's Church. This church has been connected with Baddesley Clinton forever, and it also contains that stone under which Nicholas Broome lies under no rest whatsoever. Unfortunately, it wasn't open on the day I visited, but I can tell you from experience it's wonderful and really helps you make a connection with the people that lived in Baddesley Clinton.